ァンの中にはマーキークラブ、僕の友達見に行ったんですけど、パンクスも結構いっぱい見に来てたんですが、やっぱりそういうイギリスのパンク以降、イギリスのパンクスの基本がなくなって、それでガンズの持ってるエネルギーが非常に気に入ったんじゃないかと、パンクスなんかをね。いろんなファンがクロスオーバーで応援してるから、イギリスではあんなに人気が差してたんじゃないかと思うんですけども、そのいかがなんでしょうかね。
Yeah, I mean, they go to Anthrax shows, they go to Metallica shows, you know, but, you know, some of those kids like all kinds of music, but there isn't, you know, they'll go to the Iggy Pop shows when they come to town and stuff like that, you know, and then they came to us, some of them, you know, they come to us. It's not totally dead, it's just, but there's not that many of them in bands that are doing that well anymore over there. You know, and it's like, a lot of those people were also into Hanoi Rocks, and now Hanoi Rocks isn't around. And so we kind of like fill a gap somewhere, you know, in between Metallica and Hanoi Rocks and Aerosmith, who haven't been there in 10 years, like come up through the middle, you know, because we put everything kind of like together into one band. And yeah, there was all kinds of different people. I mean, you'd look in the crowd and see someone who's like 65 years old, and then see someone else who's 15 with a mohawk. It was great. And the press was really weird, because the press, you know, said the crowd hated us, but the crowd was screaming and singing, you know. The press was just trying to see if they could stop us before we got bigger, but then we went back into the Odeon for 3,000 people or more, so kind of ruined the press as a little blockade.
今の若いファンはそのガンズ&ローズのコンサートを見て、このニュープレスっていうね、感動してるわけですけど、あなた自身が今まで見たコンサートの中で一番感動したコンサートって何なんですか？
That's like, you know, that's like saying, what's your favorite record? It kind of depends on the mood you're in. I mean, you can pick one, but it might not be the one you want to listen to tonight. One of the best shows I ever saw was an Aerosmith show, but it wasn't Aerosmith that was the most exciting part. Rose Tattoo opened the show. And Rose Tattoo was great. I saw him in Indianapolis December 7th, a few years back, and for the Scarred for Life tour. And they opened, and they were just phenomenal. Aerosmith was the Rock and Hard Place tour with Jimmy Crespo and Rick Dufay. And Crespo did one of the best leads I'd ever seen, because he played off the crowd real well. But it was Rose Tattoo that just blew me away on how, like, because it was an arena like this, packed, about 18,000 people who hated Rose Tattoo. They were Indiana people who just were like, this band sucks, I don't want to see them. But that band, you know, no one had even heard their music. I had heard their music just a couple weeks before. I was excited. So I watched people. People went psycho. They were like, this is the greatest. They loved it. Next day, though, they were all scared to say it, because there was a lot of kids, and it was, you know, during the big preppy movement in all the schools in the States, you know, Izod shirts and the whole bit. So the kids were like saying how much better Pat Travers was, because that was the middle act. When Pat Travers played, they turned the lights on so you could go get hot dogs and Coke, and people were going to sleep. That's how boring it was. Rose Tattoo won the whole audience over, and it's just like, I'm going, if they can do it, you know, you just got to do it right, you know, and it taught me a lot of lessons. That are blues-based hard rock bands. I mean, you got a couple from Australia. What you have, AC/DC, Rose Tattoo, Angel City, and that's about it that I know of.
ガンズ&ローゼスのインタビューなんですが、その前にこのガンズ&ローゼスのですね T シャツをプレゼント。白尾門、これは美味しいですよ。これは例の輸入版の一時期ジャケットになったやつですけれども、これがね危険なんですね。これは表にあった上の方にあって、これは後ろがこうなってて、このシーンが問題だっていうことで、これ危ないんですよね。これがねアップということでね、アルバムが回収されまして、日本版のアクセルの腕にある入れ墨、あれがジャケットになったわけですけど、これがガンズの唯一のオフィシャル T シャツ。これをなんとたったもちろん1名の方にプレゼントしようと思います。これは白身もんです。今これ着て街に歩いたら大変ですよ、もう若い女の子が。
I think tonight was a blast. Tonight was a really fun show. It's like I haven't felt too good physically. I've been having throat problems, tonsillitis and stuff on this tour, and tonight was kind of like the first time everything was back in gear, and just the kids were great. Lots of fun tonight.
ACDC のカバーバージョンが入ってるんですね。僕は ガンズローズ最初に来た時 AC/DC とかエアロスミスとか非常にその伝統的なロックンロールバンドの新しい80年代型のバンドだと思ったんですけども、僕のそういう考え方っていうのはどう思いますか？
Well, I love that you think that. That's great, because that's basically what we consider ourselves, is an 80s version of those type of bands that we heard in the 70s. You know, there's a lot of different forms of music that we like, but you know, so many different kinds of things we listen to, but there's certain records and certain albums that we listen to consistently, and a lot of those are AC/DC, Aerosmith, Led Zeppelin, and old Alice Cooper, and things like that, and Scorpions, that we listen to all the time. And it was really surprising to me that in the 80s the only bands that are playing that style of music are those bands. None of the kids, you know, that have grown up and have bands of their own now know really how to dig that deep for feeling. But basically, I think it's a real emotional thing. Even if you're singing about something violent or whatever you're singing about, I think you have to look real deep for the emotions, and that brings out the realness in the material. A lot of material is just, lately it seems to be how fast we can play or how we can do this. A lot of bands do something real fake so that they can be rich and be rock stars. That comes after the fact. That's second.
それとガンズ&ローゼスのメンバーっていうのは音楽を体で表現してると思うんですね。で、特にあなたの場合はそのボーカリストとしてその言葉の他に体で表現してる部分があると思うんですが、その辺は非常にスティーブン・タイラーの昔のスティーブン・タイラーに通じる部分があると思うんですが、それはいかがでしょうか？
Well, maybe in rock and roll, but you know, as far as hard rock goes, he is one of the few. But there's a lot of different, genres of music where a lot of, you know, that's just part of it. I can't help it. I either stand there bored or I run back and forth, and I kind of get into dancing. I don't even know that I like what I do. I look down at my feet and go, what am I doing now? But I feel if I stand there, then the people think, oh, this is boring. So I got to do something, and I just try to do whatever happens. It's a lot of fun. I thought about taking dance lessons and stuff, but then I was worried about it getting too stale, being too much like organized and everything. I like the spontaneity of just whatever happens. Keeps it real raw and fresh. Yeah, if it got too balletted out, I couldn't handle that.
No, help you that. Yo, hey, we're Guns N' Roses, and you're watching MTV in Japan. Don't change that channel.